Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to be discussing Games Workshop roadmaps. We have just seen the Horus Heresy one, and I'm not really going to talk about that in specifics, but more what should we expect really from roadmaps? What do they usually try and achieve, and are Games Workshop roadmaps actually working? I'm going to start by discussing the points and aims of what I think Games Workshop roadmaps are trying to achieve. Now, one thing to sort of mention is that this isn't a look at the idea of roadmaps in general because they are used in different industries for different effects. This is more what I think Games Workshops are trying to do, and that does work in with other industries as well, but as I said, focusing on Games Workshops. So, one of the big aims is hype. Now, a lot of what Games Workshop does in terms of marketing is to build hype, and that is through their cinematics, their discussion pieces, etc. And one of them is roadmaps. They are exciting, you get to see new products that are coming up, and just gets generally the consumer base quite excited about stuff. The other one I want to mention is probably building consumer confidence. Now, this is a big thing, and I think you see it more in the video game market, where if there's a poor launch of a game, you will then see video game companies then go, we have a roadmap, here is how we're going to fix the state of stuff. And Games Workshop don't really need to do that, but they do have shaky consumer confidence. So you can see a sort of parallel there where they want to give this sort of roadmap idea. I just see a parallel with the video game industry that when there's low consumer confidence, giving them a roadmap of what you're going to do tends to be what they think will build confidence, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And then allows consumers to plan future purchases. And this is quite a big one to say. So Games Workshop is a little bit more unique compared to other industries, such as video games, where say it is a first-person shooter game that often gets replaced, and we know that it's getting updated, or whether it's sports games, we know they usually get updated. It could be anywhere between September, October, November, etc. You see a lot of them updated towards the festive period. Games Workshop is a bit more unique because although they do update their books, their rules, their products, etc., they're not really gated in terms of time. And probably a big example of that is that Space Marines, we saw a new codex for 8th edition that came out straight away, and then we saw an updated one, and then we saw another one for the start of 9th edition versus, let's say, Chaos Space Marines, which did have a codex at the same time. Now, if it's following the rules, it might then have the updates at the same time, but no, they had a volume 2 one just beforehand, which was like a small update, and now they're only just getting their new codex. So the main point of that is to say that they don't have set schedule for each of their codexes are going to get updated, and that way when they have a roadmap, it is making it a bit more clear rather than having these set parameters where they're going to update. And I think that's quite good. It does possibly affect the sales for Games Workshop, because if they go, here's our committed plan for upcoming stuff that's going to get updated, it means that people aren't going to want the outdated products. Usually means they're probably going to not put their money towards it. For instance, if they'd said, Astra Militarum, which is getting an update, they're probably going to see a lot less people invest time and money into them at the moment, especially the books, because they know an update is coming, rather than wait until the last minute where they go, oh, we're going to release this in 2 weeks' time. By giving us a lot more time to plan our purchases, they do probably lose sales, but they gain consumer trust, and that is a hugely important part, and roadmaps are key to that. So the next part I want to look at is, are Games Workshop's roadmaps effective? Now, one thing they do is that they give direction. The recent roadmaps have been good at giving an indication of what the codex releases are going to be, and a bit more of the sort of where we're going with them. However, there's a few points I'd like to argue. One is that they kind of did this years back in LVO, the Las Vegas Open in 2018. They did a good one where they revealed the Necrons, the Tau, and the Drukhari, which gave a lot of people a good indication of where they're going. Versus now, and the prime example I look at that is the sort of later half of 2021, where they released the Grey Knights, Thousand Sons, and Orcs, Black Templars, and then 2 codex they hadn't actually revealed. I believe when they showed this roadmap, Thousand Sons and Grey Knights were actually up for pre-order or about to go for pre-order. So why they were really involved, I don't know. And then we had Orcs and Black Templars, and so that was all we had really kind of revealed. Orcs had already gone actually out for sale because their codex was released part of Beastnaga. So the main one we actually got found out about was Black Templars only, and then 2 other codexes, one being Imperium and one being Xenos. This was then shown as Adeptus Custodes and Genestealer Cult. And we can fully accept that there was delays, and these things do happen, but I feel that we can accept delays. What we didn't like about this one is that they hinted what the codexes were going to be, when clearly they already knew, and they weren't telling us because they wanted to build further hype. I think that really in that one, the Codex Roadmap 2021, they showed August, which was pretty much already done, and they didn't even show anything in December. So really all we got was September with Orcs, and November with Black Templar, and as we'd already seen Orcs through Beastnaga, we only really got Black Templar. So it didn't feel very effective on that one. So I think there needs to be a bit more sort of planning on that. Really what they should have done is just shown the Adeptus Custodes and the Tyrannids. They didn't even need to show the artwork for it. They could have just let us know. Now the next point is, further enough, kind of going on to that one, is not enough information. Now they may show the codexes, that allows us to see a little bit on that side, but not, they don't need to. It would be nice for them to actually give a bit more of the sort of models that are getting updated. We don't need to see the models as such, but it would allow that people would be able to go, oh, that, if for instance we're now looking at Astra Militarum, we've now seen the Sentinels, etc., which are getting updated, people could then go, oh, maybe I don't want to buy Sentinels, or maybe I do because I know that the current ones are going to be going out of print. Again, a lot of people actually find out about these models that are getting updated through leaks. We found that very much through the Chaos Space Marines. It was, I think, the list of updated models. Now, I think all but one of them were absolutely up to date, that they did get right, and even then there's still time for that one to maybe be right, but I think it's now been proven it won't happen. People already knew what the sort of models were going to come out, and it might be good for Games Workshop to step ahead and go, look, these are the planned models that we're maybe updating, so you can plan how you wish to purchase them, and there might be new ones coming as well. Simply put is that when you get the roadmaps, it would be nice to just get a little bit more details. And then the last thing is possibly messy timeline. Now, this is maybe me being a bit picky on this side. 40k season announcements back in December 2021 was quite good that it wanted to tie in and plan a lot of the releases, sort of to bring the products in a narrative sense, and also in terms of try and make them so your kill team match the box that you're bringing out, etc. I would argue that the roadmap is the best time for this, that maybe during the seasons it should be 6 months, and here is the bigger picture plan that we are going with. Here's the 6 months of codexes that we do have planned. Again, if you want to hide the artwork for some of the codexes, go ahead, but let us know what they are for 6 months. And then maybe reveal some of the models, and maybe you don't need to say the models. Maybe you could say, for instance, if we look at the Grey Knights, Thousand Sons and Orc ones, well, in all those samples they actually didn't get very many models coming out, but you could say that certain codexes are looking at smaller updates, so you'd say Thousand Sons Grey Knights, they're looking at a small update. Orcs got a large one because they had their troops and their HQ and the Mega Boss, and then they had Beast Nagas, and you say a smaller one is going to be for Custodes and Tyrannids. Just giving us an indication of what you're going to plan, whether these are going to be big updates or small updates, rather than waiting until to get closer. That would be really ideal. You don't need to give everything away, but a little bit more on these roadmaps would be good. So that is it on my thoughts when discussing Games Workshop roadmaps. And this was really spurred on by the Horus Heresy one, because I did think it's a little bit lacking. It is nice to see that the Mechanicum and the Imperium seem to be the focus going forward, and then we're getting some downloadable PDFs. And then they just put this big line that says new miniatures, which is fine, but I think that's a lot of the part that people would like to know just a few more details on. If you're going to do a big roadmap announcement, announcing essentially 2 books is not the most ideal. There are things that this may conflict with. Obviously they want to be able to have as much hype as possible spread out, and you've got to think about Adepticon, Las Vegas Open, Warhammer Day or Games Workshop Day, that they do want to release things, and that is all fine, but I think the roadmap is the best one to give the sort of basis of what is going to happen, and then give a little bit of sprinkling of ideas, and then these other events should be allowing you to focus maybe a bit more detail, look at the models, possibly look at the rules as well. Though I know Games Workshop sometimes don't like to look at the rules in particular, but these events could be focused on the models, while the roadmap should be quite a clear indication of what they want to do. And as they put at the end of the Horus Heresy 1 hour, dates correct at time of publication. Now, that's an important thing that people need to remember. I think sometimes people get annoyed that things get delayed from a roadmap, but the roadmap is to give you an idea of what they're planning and their hopes to get times, but times change and deadlines do change in many, many industries. And the fact that in the last one, for I think the 40k one at the end of 2021, they were only late by I think a month when it came to Adeptus Custodes and Genestealer Cult, and that seems fairly, good in terms of you'd get a month problem, whether it be production, etc. Month is not terrible, and I think that was okay. We need to give a bit of forgiveness in that one. I would prefer a much detailed plan with small snippets of time changes that go here or there, rather than little information because they're too scared of backlash from people saying, oh, I wasn't happy with the delay. More information and we can forgive some changes versus no information and then we have nothing to forgive because we don't know anything. That would be my ideal. So thanks again for listening. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. What do you think of the roadmaps? What do you think they should include? Do you think that they should be better? They should be worse? I don't think anyone's going to argue they're going to be worse. But what should they do for them going forward? I'm very interested to hear. So thanks again, and we'll see you on our Tabletop Assault Battle Report.